Welcome to my garden. This is a project that I've been running now for 2 years. Moved into this place about 3 years ago and started work on the garden 2 years ago. And I thought it would be a good idea to share with you 12 months of what I'm going to be doing in the garden this year. I intend to share what I'm doing on a weekly, fortnightly basis from January through to December, and we'll see the outcomes of what happens in the garden this year. Now today is quite a blustery day, so I've just come into the greenhouse for a moment and I'm going to start to chip my new potatoes shortly, and hopefully we'll get some results from those this year. Right, well, the first thing that I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be chitting my seed potatoes. Basically, that just means we're going to get some shoots on them. I like to use straw, then put the potato seeds into the straw, give them some light, give them some warmth, get them encouraged to grow. So all I do is I bed a tray with some straw, pop in the potatoes. I like to keep them separate so that they don't touch each other and they're not going to then transmit any mould or disease to each other. And the straw just protects them from the cold. And that is all you have to do. They will start shooting in this sort of temperature in about 3 to 4 weeks time. We'll revisit those later on. I'm now just going to place these over onto my frame. So there are the potatoes sitting on the rack. This rack is not an expensive one. At this time of year, a lot of retailers that don't normally do gardening have displays in their stores, and this is one of those display stands. Just a little bit of time spent strengthening with a couple of screws and a little bit of wood preservative on it, and I've got a rack there that I can put my seed trays on through the year, and it's cost me a little bit of paint and half a dozen screws. Just pop into your local retailer, speak to the manager and say, got a display stand you're not using? Could I take it off your hands? Very often they will. Now I'm going to change from feeding my body to feeding my soul. I'm going to plant some summer flowering bulbs. Again, a little bit early, but I like to get the early colour in the garden. And one of my little tips for you, if you're going to be planting bulbs indoors or in the greenhouse to transplant out later on, a little bit of early preparation always helps. What I do is I get some newspaper and I fold the newspaper into a V. Then I get a little bit of water spray just to dampen the paper. Get my pot and put this down inside the pot first of all. Fold it round inside. And this is going to take my compost, but when I come to planting out, I don't have to disturb the bulbs. I can just take the paper out from the pot and plant that straight in the ground, and the paper will decompose in the ground. Now, the compost that I'm using, I use around about 50% of a proprietary multi-purpose, 25% garden soil and 25% of my own compost from home. This enables me to put some of the nutrients of the ground and some of the bacteria that is in the natural soil, so that the bulbs are actually used to the ground that they're going to be going into, and they don't get too much of a shock when they're transplanted through. So we'll pop into here just around about 2/3 full in the pot, and what I'm planting here are an iris. These are a blue iris, beautiful flowers will come up late spring, early summer, lovely blue flowers. So I'm going to be planting those 3 to a pot. If you take the size of that bulb there, that's around about 2.5 centimetres. So I want to be covering them with the same amount of soil again. That's lovely. Give them a little spray just so the newspaper is nice and damp and is not going to take the moisture out of the soil. At this time of the year they don't need too much water, they just need to be encouraged to start to grow. And these will go onto the shelf. So what we'll do now, we'll just label those bulbs. Nice clear. And then they're ready to start growing. Now, also a lovely plant, Heliopsis. I've got a couple of roots here. These are going to go into individual pots, start them off nice and early as well. One there and one there. Lovely roots on there. They've been trimmed, so they are ready to go. We'll grab ourselves a pot, if we can get them apart. There we go. And again, nice bit of my mixture of soil. We want those roots nicely inside there. And I'm going to bury that just to the tip of the plant, so I'm just going to leave the very, very tip exposed. Firm that down. Now this compost is fairly damp at the moment because of the garden soil in it, so it doesn't need anything else added to that apart from a label. And so this is the Heliopsis. Now these plants will grow to anything up to about 1 metre high, so they will be absolutely beautiful at the back of the border in the summer. Now the last thing I'm going to be planting out this week, a little trip to my local discount retailer, and I've got a few hybrid tea roses. I don't know what they're going to be like, but they look well packed, they look in lovely condition, so we'll see how they're going to grow this year. First thing I'm going to do is going to take my knife and I'm going to open the cellophane seal on here. Just have a look at the roots inside. It's a little bit dry inside, but that's what one would expect. I'll just get this nicely open here. I'm going to reuse all of this pre-packaging compost in the pot. It is nice and warm, which is a good sign. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take this, mix it in with my compost. This is very, very sandy. This is what the roots have been used to, so I'm just going to give that a nice mix. Empty my own compost and go into the pot. Looking at the depth of the roots on here, it's around about 150, 160 centimetres, so we're going to want a reasonably deep pot. So we've got a nice deep pot there, and we'll just start by popping just a little compost into the bottom. And when we're planting this rose, we want to be planting it just below the crown. So let's get that a la so. That looks lovely. to me looks good. And of course, the one thing we must remember to do, take the name of the rose. This is Toro, Rosa Toro. So we'll take our name tag, Rosa Toro. We'll put that back onto the shelf with our other plants growing today. And that's the start of our summer colour for the year. I'm hoping to actually plant a really nice rose garden with around about 8 or 9 new roses to add to the existing. Hopefully the weather's going to be a little bit better next time and we can actually come outside and we can look at the beds. So just a little roundup on what we've done today. So we've started chitting our seed potatoes for our first potatoes. It is Maris Piper, it's a main crop, but we can get it in early and we can start reaping the rewards early. We've used newspaper to line the pots for our spring and summer flowering bulbs so that when we transplant them we can take the whole lot out of the pot straight into the ground without disturbing the roots. And we've also planted up some early heliopsis and some roses. One thing left to do. I've done my work, so now it's time for my relax. So just a small glass of wine to celebrate episode 1. So a nice glass of Côte du Rhône, and I wish you well, and I'll see you soon.